Hello, this is Bill Cooper, and the name of the show is Savannah at Night. I will get into the details of that in a second, but I'll give you the station identification. This is WRUULP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM. WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. And today on my show, I have two special guests, so two old friends of mine who are really involved in the arts of Savannah. And the purpose of this show is to get people in Savannah interested in what's going on in this city. This is such a vibrant city with so many things in the arts going on. A lot of it was fueled over 30 years ago by when Savannah College of Art and Design started here and grew from 30 students to, I think there's over 7,000 just in Savannah. It's a force in the city that helped light the torch, and it really is. If you have a chance, just look at the paper or however you get your news, and every week there's something going on, whether it's a play, a music show, something, poetry reading. There is always comedy shows. There are tons of things to see in this city. And I just feel bad that I know so many of my friends and neighbors that never go out and see it. So anyhow, that can change, and I want you to change it, and that's what we're going to do. That's the purpose of this show. So without further ado, let's welcome my guest today, Chris Soucy and Megan Jones. How you doing, kids?
Hi. Doing great. Hey.
Good. Great to see you. Now, Chris, you got a long resume, and we'll get into it. One of my favorite things you do is storytelling.
Yes,
you have
absolutely.
When you tell a story, everyone listens. It's that good. And, the story is good, and the way you present it is outstanding. You are a master storyteller in my book. So if you'd like to talk about that a bit.
Sure, absolutely. Storytelling is, in my estimation, the chief goal of art. Regardless of what medium you use, what you're trying to do and achieve is storytelling. Whether you're painting a picture, sculpting a statue, writing a book, it's all to convey ideas, feelings from the artist to the audience. And so as I went through each art form looking for a way to maximize my effect on the audience, I found that the age-old standing in front of a group of people and just telling them something became my favorite form of storytelling. It's literal storytelling. I would love to gather around a fire and just speak to the masses and tell them yarns and tales, histories. And what I find is a shared experience is enriching for both performer and audience. And there's nothing like it. It's not like a movie where the screen is not alive and the people performing aren't feeling the electricity coming off of the audience.
And for you, it's the instant feedback of any live, whether it's theater, comedy, storytelling. It's that instant feedback. You know when you nailed it.
Oh, absolutely. You know when you nailed it, and you can ride the wave of interest. If they respond positively, you can start going down a road of that positivity. You can actually cater to the crowd, and there's something amazing about it. It is a connection that I don't think you can get in any other medium, really. I mean, even to the degree of say. Acting in a play, which has that in spades, but you are limited to the exact lines that you speak,
correct,
the blocking that you're given.
I remember
all of these things that while very liberating to perform, is also built upon all of this work that kind of keeps you in the character and in the place. Stand-up comedy is a super crafted, but you can deviate,
yes, and I've done that. When the crowd is into something, as you say, you can divert off and build off of that, saying,
absolutely.
"Oh, well, I like this story about the dog I never owned. I'm going to go further on it."
Absolutely, and it's so rewarding to have that instant feedback, like you were saying. It is a true treasure to any performer to know that what they've done has landed with the audience and that they're accepting it and that they're reciprocating.
And because of your personality, your stories are full of humor. And not only that, the best part of it, that most of them are true, and they happened.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
It's just your take on what happened. I think if somebody was there, they'd have found it amusing. But your take on it just builds it up bigger and makes it so worth listening to.
Oh yeah, and it's interesting because I say it mostly true is the correct thing, because what you want to do is you want to play down things that don't play well, and you want to accentuate the things that play well, and so you find yourself creating a sort of folklore around your memories and a sort of a fable about your life, but you're staying to the event. This is what happened. But you're coloring it so that everyone can enjoy it, because not everything was enjoyable. Not all the stories, the content of which is enjoyable.
Life.
Right,
of
exactly.
Course, of anyone's life.
So you find a way. It's like being a really good cook. It's like you've got a piece of meat that's quality, but it's going to be bland, so you spice it up here. You give it a little extra seasoning, and it becomes palatable.
One of the things that's important is, as you do that, as I said, I've done comedy, and you're standing up there, no safety net, there's no lines that you had to remember, and you're there, it's hit or miss, and that's it, Sail or fail, I call it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's but one of the things that's important, you have to have a good memory, and some of your stories happened so long ago. I know you have a good memory, and I have a great memory. I actually remember being 2 years old, pulling my sister's hair, and my mother had to come in and release and she was a year and a half older than me, but I was 2, and that was like a thing of power. Wow, I can make my mother come in here. And she would pry my hand off and ask me not to do it again. And then Sandra stood further away from my playpen for the rest of the day, and there went my play pal. But I actually remember that. It's not something someone told me.
Sure.
I recall doing that and throwing my glass bottle at the glass water cooler. Man, that was a treat. Right out of the... It made a super noise. Never broke it. I wasn't that strong yet at 2 years old. But it was a pound. So, hi, Megan.
Hi, I am still here.
Good you are. And I just want to say that Megan and Chris are engaged. They're getting married in January.
Woo! This is true.
Terrific.
We're very excited.
Good kids. You really are. And this is just a nice thing. And so, anyway, tell us about yourself, Megan.
Oh, goodness. I am a product of SCAD. I actually came to Savannah about 10 years ago to attend SCAD, and I studied photography. And so I met Chris while I was there, and we started dating. And he kind of helped me dive into the creative world that is Savannah. Like, Savannah is a place that just supports you in anything you kind of want to achieve. So in my time of being here, I have put up a burlesque show. I've started 2 businesses, both photography related. I'm on an improv troupe, which if I could go back in time to like my 10-year-old self and tell me I'm going to be on an improv troupe that performs weekly, I think I would have been so excited, like dream come true kind of thing.
Excellent. So it wasn't something that you saw and and wanted to do it, and you always thought that would be great when you were young.
I've adored improv since I first saw Wayne Brady on Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's the best. And so I've always done improv. I've not, like, that was my piece of theater. I wasn't memorizing lines or in Romeo and Juliet. I was doing improv or watching it happen. So in Savannah, we started Odd Lot, and I was just an audience member when it first began. But after a couple of years, they asked me to audition, and I did and made the troupe. And I didn't want to audition. I was very, very nervous. I didn't like to perform in front of an audience. I was fine just playing games in, like, the living room. And so it made me very nervous, but I made it onto the troupe. I held off my first performance for months because I was terrified. And finally, they dragged me on stage, and it was amazing because the audience reaction, like having them there to laugh at your jokes, was everything.
And it was not anywhere near as scary as you built it up in your mind.
Not at all. I was definitely freaking myself out before it ever came to pass. And now I don't even get a little nervous. I get up in front of an audience, I'm like, all right, let's do this. No lines memorized. Like, we're just going to make some funny happen.
And that's good. That's the way you succeed at it. And anyway, Chris and Megan are involved in Odd Lot. Chris, I believe you were one of the founding members of it,
yes,
right?
Justin Kent and I founded Odd Lot. We actually were the Literary Improv League, which which we stumbled through classic literature. We improvised our performances of classic literature. And then after a while, we realized that not all of us have read that many books. So it was becoming homework. It was like, go read The Great Gatsby and get back to us. Odd Lot came about because Justin and I I was actually directing Wait Until Dark, and Justin was in it, and we got to talking about how the rehearsal process of plays oftentimes is too taxing on our schedules, and we love performing, but we don't always have time to rehearse. And so we have to like pick and choose and maybe only do one show a year, or it became harder and harder to be involved in shows, and we loved it so much. But improvisation required no rehearsal. It was just get up and perform, which in essence means we were lazy.
Yeah, the improv was
but that's a good lazy.
I mean, it's a good. It was the most productive thing we had done together. It was this concept, which was, why would we sacrifice as much time that we just didn't have, and why would we sacrifice our love of performing? We can put them both together and create something wonderful, not just for ourselves but for the entire community. Because we also decided right away that it had to be family friendly, simply because. Right. There's not a lot to do for families, not a lot to do with kids.
Not
Justin
in
and I
Savannah.
both have.
It's an adult city.
Yeah, it's
it
an
really
adult
is.
city,
I mean,
absolutely.
people come here and you see them. They're mostly couples walking down the street, and they visit. So you do see kids, but the best thing they did for kids was Alice Square, build that water thing.
The water thing and the Children's Museum. They've. And all that has happened since,
right.
All that came about.
But I think they realize that, you can't have people, because people will travel with their children. And Marianne and I will go down there and sit at one of the tables there and play cribbage and just watch the kids running through and laugh. And I'm saying, man, this is good. There's something downtown for the little ones to do. And it's just, they had to do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we like to think of Odd Lot as something that you could do with your family if you found yourself, looking for that list of museums and tours and entertainment and things of that nature. So, I can't tell you how many times I've watched children on history tours, and their eyes just glazed over, and you're like, oh, we need to pep that up a little. It's amazing that because Savannah has so much wonderful architecture and history, and it may not translate to all ages in that one regard. It's like.
But one thing about your show being family friendly, if someone's saying, I'm 40, I'm 50, I don't need that. Oh, well, guess what? It is, because it's family friendly does not mean that it's not funny. It is terrific. It really is. It's clever. It's good. Any age can enjoy it, and any age can, and they do. And, you have all ages in there. And it's just, you had to move because the Muse closed, and mentioning that, I've got to mention Jin Hee, your sister, Jin Hee Soucy Rand, and her husband Mark, who put so much time and love into that place. And it's a shame the building, I guess, is being sold, and they had to move out. But boy, they have brought so much to this community. And I am going to have Jin Hee on, and when she listens to this, that she'll know that she cannot say no. And I don't think she would, but I'm going to have her and Mark on. And
absolutely,
and, boy,
because they're still, They keep their finger on the pulse of arts in Savannah. Their whole heart is in the arts of Savannah, and there was no better name for Muse Arts Warehouse than Muse, because Jinhee not only inspires, but she puts fire under people. She makes them create.
She directed me.
Yeah, exactly. She is,
but in a good way.
She's a force to be reckoned with, and the wonder of it is that. Once you get to know that there are people like this, that Savannah's full. I always lament that there are people who say there's nothing to do in Savannah.
I've never heard that. All I'm saying that they say I don't do anything. I get that.
I hear there's nothing to do. I've even heard people leave Savannah on that note, thinking that somehow Savannah, had nothing to offer them. It's like, no, you have to actively look for it. Yes, you have to actively go to it. Yes,
it does not have to be Hollywood or Broadway to be outstanding. And some of the actors in this city, I will put up against anyone. I mean,
absolutely.
totally impressed me, the dedication to their craft. And I'm not getting into naming names because I know I'll leave someone off, but some of them are so impressive.
Oh, absolutely. And this is the great fallacy of art, is that it is location or that it is industry. It is passion. And if people have that passion,
Love.
and the love,
Yep.
once they've poured it into it, you are given as great a performance as you will see anywhere. And I stand with you. I have seen performances that I would put up against any professional theater on any stage, because the passion is obvious and tangible,
and the talent is
up there. Is outstanding.
It just shows you, though. I mean, if someone is on Broadway all the time and you know their name and face, how much talent there is out there for them to rise above that. And as I say, the talent that's behind them isn't bad at all. It's very good.
Yeah.
So I mean, it just shows you in this in this country how much talent it is. We're very fortunate. I have to make a quick announcement here, and coming back, this is Bill Cooper, and the name of the show is Savannah at Night. WRUU is now collecting items for the annual Savannah Soundings fundraising auction. We're going to have to cut that because, once again, it'll be played during its on. Okay, back to the show. Do we have the new one?
No, but we can have an alternate.
Great. Okay. Okay, I'd like to give this announcement. If your business enjoys our program on WRUU LP, please support the station with a donation. Let your customers, neighbors, and friends know that you share our vision of building a thriving community based on diverse, vibrant radio programming. As a business partner, our listeners will know you support Savannah's only broad-based community radio station. Become a tower sponsor or underwriter. To check out the levels of corporate sponsorship and to donate, go to www.wruu.org/business. Again, to check out the levels of corporate sponsorship and to donate, go to wruu.org/business. Thank you for listening to and supporting WRUU-LP. And I would like to thank our listeners today for joining us, and I hope you talk us up, this station and this show, and the good people that I have on it and will be having in the future. Okay, Megan, you're back on.
Yes, hello.
All right. What would you like to say? Anything that you'd like to talk about in what you're doing or what you've done?
Goodness, I would like to talk about, I've started a new business in January called Savannah Glamour, and it's a glamorous portrait session. What I have been doing before them was, it's Megan Jones, which is my elopement photography, and it became so successful thanks to my business partner, Tracy Brisson, and so I had to sit down one day and go, if I could do anything, really anything, what would I most wish to do? And I realized it was women's portraiture. I wanted to work with women to make them see the best versions of themselves, and I wanted to provide
I wanted to be glamorous. It's just women then.
You know, I have not said no to any man who has asked to have a glamorous portrait session. I have actually had only one ask. It was Andy. And he rocked it. He did a pinup session, and it was beautiful.
Oh, Andy,
and
that's
so
cool.
lovely.
I want a calendar of Andy's.
And we made a calendar for his girlfriend, now wife. So I've not said no to any man who has asked for the experience.
That's fun. Well, I mean, once again, that's good. I just wanted to make sure that it is open to men, too.
It is inclusive,
Terrific.
Absolutely. So I just market it towards women. But, you know, let it be known that...
Right.
When you're ready, we will do your glamour session.
Well, I couldn't get any glamorous, so I'm probably close to ready.
You'd be surprised. I have a professional hair and makeup artist who comes in and gets these.
But don't you need hair for that?
You'd be surprised.
I only have 11 left on top. I have so few I have them named.
We'll do some beard beautifying.
We can put flowers in your beard.
Yes,
Flowers
glitter
in my
beard. Yeah,
glitter beard.
We can make it happen.
Thanks for letting us have fun with it. It is it's a serious business, and you're obviously doing good, and that's terrific. Once
There's
again,
so much joy in this business. It's been amazing.
And I'd like to point out that Savannah is such an amazing place to dream, because if you simply think, God, what do I really want to do? There is very little in your way of going out and doing it.
just you. That's the only thing that stops people is themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
is this
agreed.
concept that there are barriers to it. I remember when I first moved to Savannah, I was in a conversation with somebody. I was just like, I love puppets. And within a week, I was a professional puppeteer.
Within a week?
Within a week. They were like, you need to go talk to Angela Beasley.
There you
so
go.
Off to Angela Beasley's I went, and she hired me on the spot. And that next Saturday, I was in a parade as a giant pink monster. And I loved every minute of it. And it happened that way over and over again. I wrote for the newspaper on the precipice of me saying, I could write for the paper. I would like to. I think that would be fun. And within earshot of an editor who's like, well, okay, let's see what you got.
Chris, that is the secret of anything. First of all, I want to do something, and then put that hand on your back if no one else is doing it, and do it.
Absolutely. I always say that the only difference between a dream and a plan is doing it.
Right. I was 60 years old when I started acting. I always thought it would be fun, but I never, as I tell people, I never acted in high school or college. I never got up on the stage. I enjoyed it, but I never thought, that I'd want to do it. And Marianne and I were at a play one day, and the director says, well, we're going to be having a casting call starting Monday for Into the Woods, a musical. Just being honest, not my favorite kind of entertainment, but that's me.
Sure.
But I will enjoy it if I'm there. It's one of those things, if I'm at a musical, I enjoy it, but I don't push myself to go to them.
Sure.
So anyway, I said to Marianne, I'm going to try out for that. She says, good, go ahead. So now Monday night comes, and I'm thinking of what I said, as you know, tonight's that thing. She says, well, you said you were going to go. It was no doubt then. I had to go.
Yeah, your wife knew the promise you had made. So.
Oh, boy. Yeah, right. And now it would be not just letting me down, letting her down. I can't do that. So just to make a long story short, I go there, and there were 60 people that night trying out, and they were from I was 60, and they were from age, I would say, 8 to maybe 40. And that was it. And I was, the grandfather of that set, as I usually am anywhere. But so anyway, as I'm sitting there listening to them, the tryout was they brought sheet music, the piano player played, and they sang their songs. That's, which I never saw before because I was never involved in anything in backstage theater. And I am sitting there slinking down in my chair saying, these are beautiful, well-trained voices. I'm a bathtub singer. You gotta be. Maybe I did karaoke once or twice, but I'm saying, what did I say? And then so a break came, and I went out and I talked to the director, and I told him, I said, I've never acted before. He said, don't worry, some of my best actors have been first-timers. I said, you have them do the scales when you go up there. Now, I know you go from low to high, and I said, but I don't exactly know how to do it. And he says, would you rather do it first and do the scales after? I said, yeah, I guess. So anyway, so I go back in there. Then one more person went up. I said, now or never. I just walked up on the stage. As I'm walking out there, I said, if I don't act like I bought and paid for this stage and I belong here, I have no business opening my mouth. And I did. I thanked the audience. I says, okay, I got an old song for you here from the 50s for you old people here. And I laughed, and they did, because I was the only old person there. And I wailed it. I belted that out like I wrote it. And I'm telling you, I just felt proud that I absolutely nailed it. Nope. And I just kind of glanced over at the music director and the director. And they're just looking at each other and nodding their head like, not bad. So anyway, I went out, I did my scales, I went home, I said, Mary Ann, if they never call, if I never have a chance to do it again or ever do it again, I had the guts to get up there, and I didn't waste it. I know I had a good audition. Although I felt that way many other times, I never got something. But, that's the way it is. And
it is the way it is. And
if they're not looking for you, then you're not going to get it. So anyway. So Thursday came, and he said he was going to call Thursday evening. So it was almost time for back when the Sand Gnats were in town, and a friend of mine and I were going to go to the game. I said, you know what, Marianne, I'm going to the game. It's 10 minutes to 7. And he's not going to call. So I go to the game. I come back around 10. She's Bob called. And I knew who she meant. And she says, that's the only time since I've known you, no words come out. You couldn't say anything. Finally, Bob, yeah, he wants you to call. He said, I got a part for you. Do you want it? Do I want it? Man, I jumped through that telephone.
Aww.
And that was it. And that's how I got started. I had 7 different lines. They weren't big ones, but it was on stage, and I had to sing with the chorus.
What a stellar cast.
It was terrific.
Yeah.
Mark was in that.
Yeah,
Mark
he was.
Rand, there's a lot of just an outstanding talent. I was so proud to be a piece of that, and that's what just opened the door. From then I got into SCAD films and, acting locally on stage, and because I'm a big ham, and I know, as I said, I never went out to do it my whole life, but I had the opportunity here, and I said, it's something I always at least wanted to give a shot,
Sure.
and I'm glad I did, because it is just, I've met so many good people through it and seen so many hard-working people. It's just been a happy existence here in Savannah.
And that's a great message to pass along to listeners, that if you have an inkling, if you have a desire, if you want to be in any way associated with arts and artistic things, it's not impossible. There's no impossible. It's impossible if you don't leave your home. It's impossible if you don't try.
Exactly. As I say, you draw your own boundaries.
Right.
You're the one that put yourself in whatever you want to call it. But, don't be afraid. I always tell people, at the end of a casting call, there's no firing squad.
Right,
If
exactly.
you don't think you did good, or and don't worry if you didn't do good. No one does great
Because
the
there's
first
another
time
audition,
they do it.
or
And
there's
no
another
one.
production, and there's another. Yeah, it's amazing how many people still hold rejection from an audition as an emotional turmoil. And it's like it's just another show, just wait for the next, and you don't have to invest your soul in every audition, but you do have to show up. That's
No,
rule number one.
I'm trying to think of something that we're all three in. One flew over the cuckoo's nest.
That's
That
correct.
Did you direct that, Chris?
I
Or you
did direct
okay,
it.
you directed it, plus you were in it.
I was in it, well,
And
which I
Megan
do
was in
not
it.
suggest people do. That
That's a last resort kind of a move.
I really did not want to be in it, but when you need a giant Indian, and I'm not
First
Indian,
one I
I'm
think of.
Asian.
The second one I think of is you.
But
then.
we were trying to cast it. And in the auditions, I realize you can't see this on the radio, but I'm 6'4" and 8 feet wide, and so it's really bizarre to say I need somebody big, because everybody who shows up is like, "What do you mean big?" What's your definition of big? Because the reaction to Chief Bromden is always he's huge.
Yes, and he was in the movies,
and in the
he
movies,
was a big
absolutely.
guy.
And so being my size and experience, I've actually played that role before. I was like, I'll go ahead and step into it, but I really wanted to be the director with the eye in the audience, and I had to split duties. And of course, Megan came out, and she was our lovely nurse, not Nurse Ratchet.
Nurse number 2.
Right. Was that your first acting in Savannah, in that play?
Yeah, I dare say it was my first acting in Savannah, and it might have been my last. No, that's not true, because we've done Odd Lot original plays.
We've done
Right.
Odd Lot original plays, and we've had various and she does Odd Lot almost every other week.
And I
at
was
least.
also third horseman from the left in Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog,
That is
which
true,
we've done
which
twice.
was very enjoyable.
Yes, no, I was a happy horseman and a creepy fan, I think.
So listeners know, Bill actually became very well known as a last-minute get.
No, it was Last Minute Man.
He was
LML.
last minute man because
The go-to guy.
Yes, when the casts and this happens a lot in community theaters, you run out of actors. Somebody drops out. Somebody gets sick. Bill's on my speed dial as the guy to come in at the last minute and save the show. And which he did. He only had one line, which we could never say on the radio, but he nailed that character so well that I want to say people remembered him more than the lead.
No, that's not. But I appreciate what you're saying, and I thank you. And that brings up a point. I did a play one time out at Tybee when they had that little theater upstairs.
Oh yeah, the Tennessee Williams, Gnidicus Fräulein.
Right, and your sister was in that, and she was terrific. And Peppy Strife.
Yeah, that's right.
Outstanding combination, those two. My part, I had a I think it was bathroom privilege. I was a bum. I'm inside the little house they built there, and I reached my hand out. That was my only line. However, there was a giant bird that came out from time to time in the production and just across the stage. So they had built this costume, big feathery costume. I had a big beak and leotards with with big floppy bird feet. And I would come out and do my, just prance around the stage. Now, I understood I didn't want to steal a scene. That was a good play, Tennessee Williams.
Oh, sure.
But I didn't want to just be an also-ran either. So I went out and I did it. Now, Ryan McCurdy was there.
Yeah.
Right, I had never met him before. And Ryan McCurdy, you talk about talent. I mean, this kid
yeah.
just drips off him. Anyway, he came up to me afterwards and he says, Billy, nice to meet you. He introduced himself. He said, I want to tell you something about that costume you wore. A lot of people in plays figure they put on a costume, they don't have to act. You made it come alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I felt so good getting a compliment. And then when I realized how good I had seen him in things, I'm saying, man, that's a compliment that I'll never forget. That was just,
Absolutely.
It made me feel good because that was my goal. Once again, not to steal a scene, not to be out there obnoxiously forever, but when I'm there, to make it work.
Well, that's one of those things, which is fascinating because there's a common phrase which is there are no small roles, only small actors. But the truth of the matter is there are small roles, there aren't unimportant roles.
Right, every single thing. One line or 100.
Because if it's not in the right space, it's like a gear in a clock. If you put the wrong sized gear in there, the clock's not going to run. So you have to understand where you are and what you have to do and what you have to achieve. But if you're not turning, if you're not doing your job, then the whole piece can collapse around it. And that particular piece would be abject tragedy without the bird. Because it was a hard watch, brilliant play. Hard watch, but there was this wonderful, surreal bird moment where you're like, there's a breath of relief.
What is
to
that
this.
about?
Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh, thank you. I don't need to watch this blinded performer, running around the stage.
Now, Megan, I'm sure you and Chris both agree with me on this. When you're in a play and it's 6 weeks to 8 weeks of studying and that, you become like family with everyone in that play.
It's truly a family with all the goods and bads of a family.
Right.
Like, you have to work together. There's drama, and you miss them like crazy when the show's over.
Right. It is once again, it is a relationship that's hard to describe. Maybe, other people go to work and say, yeah, that's my work family, and I get along with them, and there's bad days like anything, but, usually they're good days. And there's a bad day or two, but usually they're good days because everyone's there because they love it.
And on a cast, you really rely on each other a lot more than like workmates. You like, hi workmate, whatever. But in a cast, you're like, oh my gosh, I hope you know your next line because I'm lost. And you have to rely on them like a family. Like, you're very supportive of each other and lean on each other.
And you will bail someone out if you see them struggling. You will say something to give them a clue. We've all done that. We've been on both sides of that, and that's just once again, you come together because the audience there is the people we are there for, just as the audience listening to this. We're here for you.
And as you work, it becomes surprisingly high stakes, personal stakes, but high stakes. And there's something amazing about performing at all is counterintuitive to the human condition when it comes down to it. It is exposing things that other people hide. It's saying things that other people suppress. It's being vulnerable in front of strangers. And so the cast bands together because the only protection they have is each other.
Okay, I'd like to take a quick break here and give you some information that you need to know.
This portion of WRUU-LP Savannah Soundings programming is made possible by a grant from Sentient Bean, offering fair trade coffee, vegan and vegetarian food, and breakfast all day. Located at 13 East Park Avenue, across the street from the tennis courts at Forsyth Park. Our menu and special events listings can be found at sentientbean.com. This portion of WRUU-LP Savannah Soundings programming is made possible by a grant from Sentient Bean, offering fair trade coffee, vegan and vegetarian food, and breakfast all day. Located at 13 East Park Avenue, across the street from the tennis courts at Forsyth Park. Our menu and special events listings can be found at sentientbean.com.
Okay, hi, we're back now. Thank you, Sentient Bean, our friends out there. And let's see. Okay, we talked about that and that. Storytelling. Megan, are you a storyteller?
I'd like to consider myself a storyteller, but mine is definitely a visual story. When I shoot elopements a lot, and so my storytelling is photography based. When I meet a couple for the very first time, I photograph their wedding,
Right.
and I kind of tell the story of their love. I like to say it sounds sappy, but it's super true. Like, people will remember me forever as the one who kind of captured and was there for their elopement. Their friends and family weren't there. They had an officiant and a photographer who were
Right.
both strangers, but are friends by the end of their wedding day. And so my storytelling is
No, that's a nice
visual.
feeling.
It absolutely
Good for
is.
you.
No, it's amazing. And I do a lot of elopements. And so every couple is so different and strange and wonderful, and every wedding is like a new chance to tell a new story.
And as Chris said, every art is storytelling.
It absolutely is.
And that's proves it.
Oh, yeah, you can prove it many different
I
ways.
just proved Chris was right. Yes, I am. He's shaking his
nobody
head.
has
Yes,
to work at that.
yes, you did. Bill.
We won't go into how many times I'm right. The record is.
Oh, that's okay. You're going to be married.
She's always right.
That percentage will change.
Yes, the scales are tipping.
Marianne, I will say, okay, I hate to admit it, but you were right. What'd you say? No, you were right. Chris, you got a story for us to tell?
His stories are very long.
They're very long, but I will actually.
Maybe, well, give us 10 minutes if you can.
I will give you an interesting tale.
Excuse me one second. Once again, This is Chris Soucy, and he is going to be telling us a story. Go, Chris.
Okay, well, this story is actually about how Savannah Shakes came to be. Savannah Shakes is a local Shakespeare company devoted only to the production of Shakespeare plays. And what happened was, in 2014, my friend Sheila Bolda gave me a call, and she said, I'm dying to do Shakespeare. I have this concept that's not all fleshed out, but I really want to do Taming of the Shrew. And what was strange was, at that exact same time, I was sitting there mulling in my head how I wanted to do Hamlet. And it just seemed too coincidental that two people mulling over out in space two separate Shakespeare productions. And so when we got together, we sat down and we talked. Her idea for Shrew was to place it in World War II, to do a 1940s rendition of Taming of the Shrew. And I was like, that's brilliant, because Catherine, the main character, the Shrew, is very much like Rosie the Riveter in iconography. You can kind of see it. And our poster was actually Rosie the Riveter, our actress, done up like Rosie the Riveter, with the muscles, and it was such a wonderful experience. And we were like, what if we took Shakespeare and just started in 1940s and just moved up decade by decade with each of our productions? So Hamlet took place in the 50s, and we were doing the beatnik Hamlet. We were kind of looking at Hamlet as a Jack Kerouac-like character who is this tortured poet who is trying to make amends in that post-war world. And as we moved on, we saw that the beauty of Shakespeare is it translates so well. The reason why people still produce it, the reason why it's still anything, is that people recognize in it the same struggles, the same feelings, the same notions and ideas. And so we started just mowing down this path. We went to the 60s sort of laugh-in style for Much Ado About Nothing, and then we went to the Vietnam War with Henry V. And we did The Tempest as a disco glam rock spectacle. And we're just about to launch our Titus Andronicus. And Titus Andronicus, I always called the Shakespeare Chainsaw Massacre. It is possibly his bloodiest play. There's cannibalism. There's people being torn apart, cut up. It is. I'm guessing Shakespeare had a bad week.
It was swell.
It was, well, so, and that's coming up. And so we decided that it's basically a grindhouse movie. It's basically this blood and gore kind of heightened thing. And so we're going to do it.
Of all the descriptions, grindhouse movie is the best.
Well, that's just it. You know, when you want to shock the senses and tell people that Shakespeare is not that stuffy and scholastic and academic thing, you're going to have to say, hey, look at this grindhouse Shakespeare, because it fits perfectly. It's a revenge tale. It's full of sex and violence, and it is without a doubt the most explicit of Shakespeare's works as far as onstage violence. So we feel that adapting Shakespeare to modern era has given people an amazing comprehension of Shakespeare. People come up to us, teenagers would come up to us after Shakespeare shows and say, "Oh, wow, I'm so glad you changed the language." I was like, we didn't change any of the language. We changed the costumes. We made it recognizable. But the language you understood because you related.
Right. Right, and if you get 3 words out of a sentence, you can put it together with Shakespeare.
Exactly, and especially when you add action. Which is what I get about
3 words out of a sentence.
And I always tell people that. I was like, Shakespeare was a poet. He made up words. He actually made up more English words than any single person. So even in Shakespeare's time, people in the audience were like, what was that? Because they had never heard that word before.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. And so when you look at it that way, that it's a performance, that it's supposed to be on stage and in motion and moving, that tells you, when people sword fight with each other, they're not getting along. When people kiss each other, they love each other. It's that simple connection, and it makes the language comprehensible. You understand it because the action must be supported by the language. So you listen to the language and you start to pick out those words and you start to say, oh, now I understand it. But, it's okay not to understand a good 50% of it because it's poetry and it's some of the most beautiful poetry, but it's also stylized and it's for style and effect.
Excellent. Now, we know that the Muse is gone. Where will that be playing?
Well, we've been finding homes for each of these places. We had Club 1, Bay Street Theater for Tempest, and we're going to actually, we are in the process of asking a movie theater if they would house us. Because we would love to use projections, we'd love to film certain things and then perform in front of the screen. There's and I don't know if you noticed this ever, when you go to a movie theater, there's a good 30 to 40 feet between the first seat and the screen. Most of that's because you can't watch a movie any closer. You'll get a nosebleed. But that space is oftentimes used by presentations. I've known churches to use movie theaters. So we're in negotiation to try to get into a movie house. But if not, we'll land on our feet somewhere. Excellent,
and I know you will. Once again, I'd like to give a station identification. This is WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM. WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. Okay, Megan, just to let you know, I know you're here too.
Yes, hi. I was listening to the story too, this darling.
On the puppet people. Now, I remember when you and Chris did it around Christmas time when they had Christmas at Wright Square.
Oh, no.
Right. Well, anyway, I had never seen you two as puppet people before, and it was kind of cool that I knew who was in there, and all the people walking by and getting a kick out of it with small kids and that, and really enjoyed it. It was, an enjoyable thing.
Oh, yes.
That they didn't know who it was, and I did. I could go up and whisper something. You need a break?
We did have big heads on. We had normal clothes, but we were Punch and Judy with
big feet, big hands, and big
yeah,
head.
That's right. The feet and the hands were huge, and the heads were just like, it sat on my shoulders, this big headpiece as Judy, and Chris, who was a good foot taller than me, as Punch with this big head on. And I think we looked out of the mouths.
Yes.
Because they were just so humongous.
It's funny that Bill would say that it was neat to know who was in the costumes, because that's how my love of puppetry actually started, was Jim Henson. He was in Cricket magazine, which is a children's magazine when I was a child, and the cover was Jim Henson holding Kermit the Frog, and I felt like I was in on a secret. was like, oh, that's Kermit the Frog.
I get
saw
it.
his face. I saw who he was, and all of a sudden, every puppet became the person who was manipulating the puppet, and I began to really feel this grand connection with the magic, because it was like I was in on a secret. Because they didn't show him on TV. You never saw Jim Henson,
No.
on
or
the
any
Muppet Show.
you never saw the marionettes or puppets. You
Right,
never saw the
exactly.
ones pulling the strings. Ignore the man behind the curtain.
Exactly. I'm like, with the exception of like Sherry Lewis, I don't think you really ever saw.
Right. That was her hand?
That was her hand.
Lamb chop?
Lamb
Little
chop was her
Why
hand.
would she name her lamb something that you're going to have for
She liked
supper?
the cruel
Because it was, it was.
Was that a
ironic.
clue? Poor lamb. There was a different lamb chop every week.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Wow. We have two different minds. I grew up closer to Lowell than you.
Yeah, that's fair.
Me and Jack Kerouac.
There you go. That's
Yeah.
right.
Oh, man, it's fun. Let's see. So, anything you two would like to add? I'm glad to hear you.
Well, Odd Lot is doing a lot of fun things now. When the Muse closed, we had to find a new home, and we found a home above the Savannah Coffee Roasters. There's this loft space. It's a door on the outside to get to it, but it is like this really cool, kind of unknown space that we've moved into, and it's been like amazing. We've put walls up and this fake brick wall that looks kind of silly and lights in there, and we painted it, but it's all ready to go, and we get to now perform at Muse. We performed just Mondays, but now we get to do Mondays and Saturdays, which is lovely, so our weekend crowd can get in on some Odd Lot, and we're doing classes.
And that's a great place to watch it. You're absolutely right. You did a super job. I didn't know what it looked like before, but it was
Not like that.
it was not in you're closer to it than we were at the Muse. I mean, you were just
it's
a little further
kind
away.
of in the heart of downtown. It's situated close enough to anybody who's in that downtown, heart can get to easily.
That is good. Megan,
Yes.
okay. Improv versus stand-up. Have you done stand-up?
I haven't. My heart truly lies with improv. And, there's a
No,
small...
but would you consider doing stand-up?
Maybe.
Oh, come on.
I think I've considered it briefly here and
we have
there.
talked about it,
I'm a
actually.
very nervous performer, so new ways of performing freak me out. And I think it's very lonesome to do stand-up. It's sink or swim, and I've relied on an Odd Lot family for a long time to perform with and bring the funny.
Okay, so I mean that's the difference that you see. That once again you are standing there alone when you're doing stand-up.
Yes, and if the crowd doesn't like you, I think I wouldn't deal with that well. I think I would go home and cry about it and be very upset.
And be mean to them too.
To the audience?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Be mean to them if they didn't like you.
See, I don't have that in me. I
No,
think I would just be
I'm
like,
only
please
kidding.
laugh.
I wouldn't want you to if you had it in you.
Please laugh. I think at some point in the future, I will probably be doing some sort of stand-up. Maybe just once. I'll call you when that happens.
There are
Give it a
actually
whirl. Seriously.
I'm sorry.
Foxy-Loxy. That would be the place
Yeah.
to do it because it is a very good crowd there. No one has ever. I've never seen anyone there heckle any. And I've been running there for 2 years now. I've never seen anyone get heckled on
I
stage.
do love Foxy Loxy.
And that's what's nice. And in most places in town, I mean,
People are nice enough, yeah.
Yeah, they really are. And anyway, so tell me then. You explained why you haven't done stand-up. So what is it you like about doing improv?
Oh my gosh, it's really an off-the-cuff fun thing, and my favorite part is that we're family friendly, because when you draw a line in the sand that says this side is great and friendly and this side's wrong and dirty, you can toe that line and it becomes very funny. You don't cross the line, the kids don't know what you're doing, but you just toe the line a little bit and it is great. Like, a well-placed joke can land so well and be so joyously funny, and the kids leave and they had no idea what you were doing.
I have seen Lanita never cross that line, but you swear she did.
We have a couple members.
Sometimes I wonder if she's not redrawing that line sometimes.
I think she reaches across it a little bit.
She does.
But I mean, she
Skillfully,
does
though.
it skillful,
Yeah.
clever, very clever. I mean, it's
and so there's lots of opportunities to be clever and to work around that line and to bring joy to kids as well as adults in their own ways.
And that's once again to get back to what I said at the beginning. You can bring kids to it, but adults will enjoy
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah, it's not for kids.
Right. It's not like a movie that just kids would be interested in, and you have to take them. This is something everyone laughs with.
And we definitely ham it up when we have an audience. Generally, our audience has a couple kids. Sometimes there's no kids, but when there's kids there, we definitely become more physically funny. We ham it up for the kids, and they adore it.
Kids have no problem letting you know when they like something.
They're our toughest critic because once the phone comes out, you're like, oops, I lost them. So.
But that's, once again, that's a societal problem today, but we can't
But
all
we've never
cure it.
had that problem.
We haven't
at
yet,
all, which is
luckily.
amazing. Well, we actually got a review. We recently just got a review that was my two teenagers did not pull their phone out once.
That's once again, isn't that a triumph?
It was super triumph. We were like, wow. And our last Saturday show, we had two small children.
They must have been 4 and 6 years old.
Yeah, which you can't really gauge a humor. Fall down, they'll laugh. But
right.
But they were engaged and they were a part of it all. But they didn't detract from it and they didn't distract from it, which is awesome.
But with your years of experience doing it, you know how to handle it too.
Oh, absolutely.
You know how to work with it.
The show always changes based on who's in the audience.
Right.
And that's the beauty of improv too. We can change it up. And we've had people who brought their kids to the shows, found out we had classes, and brought their kids to the classes. They're like, my kids loved this. Let's get them in on some classes. And so we've seen them convert from my first improv show to I'm doing improv now. This is the best.
Now, you said you had trepidations about first doing it, that you had to think for a while before you did it. And now you're going out there, but just the fact that you actually don't know what you're going to do out there, isn't that, does that a bit of, no, I don't mean scare you, you're long past that, but do you think of that when you...
I think it's all the better for it.
Right.
I would rather know nothing than half no lines, right? I'd rather go out completely blind and be like, let's do this, than be half memorized on some lines for a play and go, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing.
That's called
there's
unprepared.
nothing worse than stepping on stage unprepared. Yeah,
right, and that's the interesting thing about it. How do you prepare? You can't.
You just go and do it.
Right.
Yeah.
But you guys have that ability to work together and to, someone knows when someone's slowing down and they pick it up and
Yep.
it's
Absolutely.
That's the great thing about it.
We make a great team. And it is, again, the theater family. Our theater family's been together for 5 years. More.
We're at 7.
Wow, I can't believe it. We have really covered a lot of things here. I knew I would. With my two friends here, Chris Soucy and Miss Megan Jones, I knew it's Megan Jones.
That is my business name for my elopements. It's Megan Jones.
I knew it would be a good show, informative, and I'm sure the audience feels the same way I do. This has been a terrific show, and so glad you came in. And I'll have you back again sometime, too. I mean,
Thank you so much.
Right,
it's been a pleasure.
But not before your sister.
No.
We'll get her out.
Okay, you have been listening to Savannah at Night with your host, Bill Cooper. As I say, my guests today were Chris Soucy and Megan Jones, and we are WRUULP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul.